Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, I'm here as Ida Fitriani as student of international relations. So, here I will present about my paper, my research paper that titled as the International Relations Student Perspective through the U.S. 2020 presidential election. So, let's get it. Okay, for the first, as we see on the PPT or on our screen that there is six of table of content that I will explain in this presentation. The first is introduction, so literature review, so research methods, the poll is result, so discussion, and the last is conclusion. So let's go into introduction. The presidential election in the United States as 2020 has always been a topic of conversation in globally, isn't it? In fact, most all the social media participate in influencing this president election. They even decorate by decorating a stronghold between the supporter of Joe Biden and also Trump. The most important, the reason why this topic is failing in the corner of the world is because every government policy in the United States greatly influence the world in geopolitics or in the world economy. So that's why every single country they truly pay attention and also updated about the U.S. policies. So that every movement of the political and economic world of a country that addresses it doesn't embrace democracy as whole. So with this research, and then I will analyze about the president's election in the USA 2020 to international relations student, not because they as the student of international relations, this is needed because the future of the international relations will be someone who is important in the next future, isn't it? Maybe they as the political or just an actor in the national relations, and so that's why this is it is important to review it in this field. First problem spring up in the United States controversial in this last day, both in the electoral system and the impact of Trump previous leadership. So that is problem with Donald Trump, which is because he is just focused in the domestic market and may don't agree with multilateral agreement. So today, Joe Biden they show us that uh, he will uh, he wanna make a multilateral cooperation with the other countries, especially in the Middle East and also Asia region. This perspective of this research was held revealed in the several ways. Like the first is the perspective of international relations student toward the president of the United States. So the second is indicator of whether the United States can still be dubbed as the killer of democracy. So the third is with the election of Joe Biden, whether it will have bad impact or good toward the countries in the world, as we see that now, who elected by, who elected at the US is Joe Biden, isn't it? So, and then it all will be addresses to the following question. We have, I have four question here. Like the first is, um, what are the perspective of international relations student on the American president election in 2020? So, and also, how do international relations students view the 2020 United States presidential election system? So, what is the perspective of international relations student about the USA, which is dubbed as the mecca of democracy, by looking at what happened in the 2020 USA presidential election? So, the last is, will the will the election of from the Joe Biden bring good or bad impact globally, especially? Okay, next is about literature review. So, as we see, I just saw two theory from the literature review at the theoretical framework, but here I wanna present to you three theories that I have written on my paper. The first is about the first theory is democracy. Democracy is a word that has come to mean very different things to different people. In origin, it come as a Greek. The first is demos, and also the second is kratos. This is mean the power of the people. But power in what sense? In modernity. Democracy is often considered as being concerned in the first instance with a voting rule for determining the will of the majority. This is the first theory. The second theory is about general election. General election that stated by the Prahaja is a process for choosing the people who will occupy government seat. These elections are held to create a democratic country where its leaders are elected based on the most majority of votes. And this is the theory two. So I have the third theory as well. Uh, namely is liberal democracies. There are democracies that give their citizens the breadth of the freedom. In terms of the politics, there is no limit for each individual or group to unionist. This condition causes parties with different ideologies to compete against each other to control the government as run in the program. It is all about the theoretical framework that are written on my paper. So let's go into the next empirical review. So actually, I have three study before that review in this empirical review, but I will say two of them. Okay, so the first is according to Welter 2004 that over vote ballot in the 2000 presidential election in the Florida includes more than 50,000 votes that were intended to go to either Bush or Gore but instead were discarded. This way, primarily due to the de facto election administration in the state, especially the failure to use a system of toward its voter when there so many marks were on a ballot and allowed to voter to make a correction. The study two, according to Face at 2020, said on his journal, yeah, he said that 2020 US presidential election is approaching. The journal has a rich tradition of publishing high-quality research on combining media coverage election, political advertising, and social media platform, and the last is the impact of media and communication on electoral engagement and voting. So the last study that state by state works in 2020 in the midst of the pandemic using posing unprecedented challenge local and state administration of safe, secure, and professional election. This article will discuss a metric of success in the adaptation that look place record high turnout widespread voter satisfaction, a doubling of mail voting without a contaminant increase in the problem often with the idle ballots. That's all. That's all about the literature review with that content by theoretical framework and also empirical review. So let's. So here I have a research method. It is content in the both group. Like the first is research, respondent, uh, data study, and the media. The research I will use as a quantitative research. So the second is respondent. I am here get around 20 respondents from international relations students, and the study, eight main questions will be answered by all the respondents, and maybe the study will run by questionnaire from Google Form. So this is method. This research study was conducted to find out how the student perspective international relations regarding the 2020 U.S. president election. And respondent will consist of Indonesian students, especially the studying international relations program. So the survey study will be distributed to the student of international relations is in particular, and all data will be recorded to through a questionnaire that is sent by the data before. This questionnaire will involve all international relations students at UMY in particular, and also as free as the society which is study international program. The questionnaire will be entered through social media and communication platform, and data will be collected via Google Form, which is the media from this research method. That's all for the research method that I use from this research paper. So let's get to the result. Uh, from the eight question, I will explain one by one the result and also the response from the respondents. Okay, for the first, we see that the question is for the respondent is, do you think international relations students need to know and review knowledge about the presidential election of America? Let's explain. So here we can see the first table that 40% state that reviewing the president election in the United States is necessary because the U.S. country indeed is superpower. So, and there is a 40% responded to. They say that the study this field is truly, and also reviewing this issue is truly needed this is uh, because this is entered to international issue. With this international issue always being the friend of international science study. And the last there is 20% of respondents that this need to be reviewed by the international nation without any comment uh, for their statement. That's from the first question. So let's go into the second question. What do you think of the 2020 American presidential election compared to the various years president election? Sorry. So, um, according to the data above that show on the PPT, uh, the there is some of differences state from the respondents. Like the first, they have the reason and the president election from the previous years. They have difference in the system from before. And also there are corresponding who state that the United States in 2020 has a desire to lead a better and more open country. So on the next, there is three respondents that state they are different with the choice with still many and supporter and armor anarchy. And the last, that is fourth respondent that the difference with the years is because the pandemic crisis. Okay, this is about the one as first and the second question. So let's go to the third and also fourth question. The third is, our president election in 2020 already qualified for the democratic system? So as we saw on the table of that 60% of the respondents state that the presidential election at the time didn't meet the democratic system as the rest of the respondents. They state that presidential election has fulfilled the democratic system because of the conflict between support and also from the committee. This is uh, but the major respondent they say that this hasn't fulfilled the democratic system. So the fourth question is, the procedure for the 20 presidential election in the United States is the accorded with the rule of this, or is it still fraud or chaos? So uh, according to the result, as we see on the PPT2, on the respondent vote has been seen that 8 people have assumed that the election will reach in it, while 10 of the respondents state in the US presidential election has fulfilled the procedure set by the committee. And last, the respondent argued that there was still a conspiracy during the election of uh, social media is not furthermore accurate about whether or not government or committee are still cheating in the 2020 election this president election. So let's go into the fifth question. Fifth question about with the COVID-19 pandemic, will the president's election in 2020 conducted the health protocol? So the answer. The present election, actually, the present election has been implemented the system as the health protocol or not, isn't. So 16% of the respondents said that it's the complete with the and implementing health protocol, while the others and the rest of the respondents they say that they have not implemented health protocol. So and the reason when they have not implemented health protocol is because there are so many demonstrations that occur and protests between the two stronghold of supporters. And we can be seen that in the COVID-19 number in US and that time increased very greatly. So that's why. So let's go into the sixth question. That is, do you think there was conflict between the people that took place during the election? And 100% of the respondents say that there is still conflict and chaos on the occur during the 2020 US president election. As I said before, there is so many chaos and also demonstration that going to down to the street. which is they have so different diversity of diversity diversity theme of the demonstration like uh, Black Lives Matters and etc. So that's why all the respondents say there's a chance or demonstration in this president elections. So let's go to the next question about the what do you think Joe Biden plans over to the court and the protest of the United States? So the result about there is seven respondents that the Joe Biden policy is related to economic improvement and also more open many opportunity to country to cooperate with other country, especially Asia region, also Middle East. So while the respondents said the policy that make American better is to open up and more foreign investment and more multilateral cooperation. And five respondents say that all the Joe Biden policy will make the United States better off with the new policy. And the last can be seen that sorry there is there is there is two respondents expressed their ignorance about this on the ground as the reason that they were both not truly updated about the U.S. President election in 2020, so they're not answering this question as well. So the last question is, what do you think Joe Biden leadership going to make a lot of influence globally, uh, include the region? So let's we see that 16 respondents said Japanism will have a good impact globally. The reason is the U.S. the headline of the world economy and also more with the potential for America to open up to the multilateral corporation. Meanwhile, one respondent said that Joe Biden want to restore good relations with China and improve it, and also one another respondent has a reason to believe that Joe Biden is a valid Democrat. And lastly, there is last two respondents who did not state what anything because they have not seen too much development in this leadership of Joe Biden. So this all from the result. There are the data that I get from the 20 respondents. So here we go to the discussion. Uh, the perspective of international relations students regarding the 2020 US president election in this study is very complicated. Each question that has been provided of the different perspective, however, in this discussion will be discussed one by one from the questionnaire. The purpose of this study is to find out how international relations students practicing in various questions about the president election. It is noted that the importance of the learning and also studying about the president election is of interest of international relations students. With two reasons when they state that is an important study that is because the issue of international relations should be reviewed by international relations students. The second one still need to be reviewed because the USA state is a superpower country and it can make a lot of impact to the country, the world especially, even the various sector. So from the data above, we can see also that the comparison between the 2020 president election and the previous year's presidential election is because the system. As we seen that the previous years there is no pandemic that's spreading in this world, and then but now we can see that the system is going to online. Avoid the spread of the COVID-19 as that days the way is the yesterday they send the result of the resident vote by the mail package to be collected to the committee of president election. This is truly different with the previous year and at president election. So let's 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 get to the next data that we see above again. There can be stated that the 2020 election has fulfilled the procedure and no cheating at all election, but there are more respondents that is the election there is still more fraud and also chaos. Like there is one party and they not found and also are not uh list as presidential candidate because they lack of the information also champion about the party. That's all. So, regarding the whether in this new electoral system the USA has used the protocol or not, and throughout the study above state that the USA has not met the health protocol in implementing the president election system in 2020. As it is the evidence that there are still demonstrations of support as well as Trump or Joe Biden taking off the street to protest the outcome of the president election, with the evidence that there is still so many Protesters making the 2020 election, there are still conflict and demonstration in various states that happened in US. That's so the next state, according to the study above that I said before, that the election president of Joe Biden to lead U.S. will bring the good plan into the future of U.S. Such as Joe Biden will restoring economic cooperation with the country, especially for the Asia region, also Middle East. In particular, see that this is time of Trump limit in the economic cooperation. As a result, as a result of the latest study, suggests that Joe Biden legislation will have the huge impact globally through the data globally, and also the data above is that the Joe Biden will affect the world because indeed the USA is the heart of economic and very superpower country. And US will expand the multilateral cooperation too, and then that's why this really improve well for the US actually. According to Partigi 2020 stated second, Trump as the incumbent president does not set a good example for the supporter to be rational and fair play in the politics. Trump is always too bold to continue to inject and play to the emotion of his supporter in order to secure his political goals and wider uh, per personal interest. And in this survey, it has been confirmed that not only Trump supporters are making noise and uh, protocol, but also the Joe Biden supporter as well. They disagree because they want their president re-elected, but many of the American citizens were upset with the political offer by the Joe Biden that made the two-side conflict. That the study that was did before forum Partogi 2020. So let's go to the last part is conclusion. In conclusion, the perspective of international relations student in the 2020 US presidential election has a lot of different perspective and complicated. And most respondents agree that this presidential election runs with a perfect system, even the whole protocol system is not implement there. As to make his presidential election issue can be very worthy study discussed in the international relation program. Everyone being the enthusiastic respondent answer questionnaire and also uh, there are three perspective elements that are written in this uh, research paper. The student reflecting on the system of how the president election took place. So the second is the student perspective on the president election, and the last about the mission, vision, and influence of the president Joe Biden. So the second conclusion I will say for the future or the further research, I suggest to they'll be able to pay attention to the level of question that will be presented in the questionnaire, to the fact that not all international relations students always know and review the issue that occur on this world, as well as the fact that international relation program will not only focusing in one issue that happened in this world by today, but it is a wonder that some Irish students are not too interested in this topic of study. So for the future research, I suggest that will truly pay attention to the question that will wait on the questionnaire. So that's all about the presentation of my research paper. So thank you for the kind attention and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.